That is loud.
Hey everybody, Chris the Up North Air Gunner, and this is the DonnyFL Yokozuna, and this thing right here has enough hush in this can to quiet down that beast that you see behind me here, and that's the FX Dynamic 35 cal, and it's pretty hot rodded.
That is loud.
And this Yokozuna in the 35 caliber setup absolutely hushed that thing down to a ridiculous amount of quietness. Now, trying to quiet down a big bore air gun like that, it's just a lot different than trying to quiet down, say, your 177 22 or your 30 cal like bench pellet rifle. Those are quite easy to actually quiet down, but something like that is just, it's an air belching beast. This thing right here has worked amazingly well. So I want to go through some of the features and just kind of do a quick unboxing here. So I got this for sound suppression, but I'll tell you what, that thing actually has a bit of a pop, bit of a recoil. It's not like a firearm center fire recoil, but just, you know, in your scope, you can definitely see that recoil of that 35 cal. And so when I put this on though, I immediately felt a reduction in recoil. And a lot of that has to do with these flat faces. So as I stack this out, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these flat faces that every one of those sections, that air is hitting, and that's actually helping reduce that recoil. It's also stripping the air. What they did here, the way they ported out these holes to dissipate the air away in each section, you can tell that there's a little, there's 2 little cutouts on the side, almost looks like 2 mouse ears. Makes kind of like an infinity symbol on the inside there. So as that air is basically hitting this flat part, it's then dissipating out into that cup. So it's just basically moving all that air away from the path of the projectile as it's going through. So every one of these is caliber specific, and so this is the 35 cal. So we've got that felt recoil reduction that I'm feeling as I shoot this, but the sound reduction, guys, years ago, I did a review video of the, I think it was the Emperor for DonnyFL, using the Air Force Texan. And it was the quieter than raindrops video, and it's well over 100,000 views on that thing. Then I got a lot of comments on that video of like, oh, you need to use a decibel meter next time you go out there to the woods. And guys, trust me, if you know anything about decibels, decibel meters, how those things work, you have to be in a specific environment. The number that thing is giving me is going to be very specific to the environment that I'm in. For me, the way I test the sound reduction of a suppressor isn't always in decibels, whatever that number is. A lot of times people don't realize decibels, like even a matter of like 2 or 3 decibels can be a significant amount of sound reduction. So instead of speaking in terms of decibels, I actually want you to listen to what you actually hear in the video as I shoot this thing. So I try to think of like, how can I run a test? Just no BS. How could I run a test to show you how absolutely amazing this Yokozuna is with that 35 dynamic? So that shooting area that you often see on my channel, what that is a dead end of a Jeep trail that goes out into the forest. So it is a hallway of trees, and it's a great shooting location because it's a great place to shoot. It blocks the wind a little bit. But for audio and for the shot report, there's a ton of echo in there. And so when I'm shooting, you can't fake echo. So basically, I want you to hear the difference between unsuppressed. You're going to hear massive echo just ringing through the woods, shooting this thing unsuppressed.
That is loud.
So if I'm able to suppress that shot report, what you're going to listen for is the reduction of that echo. So check this out, suppressed. So there it is, everybody. The woods have ears. It does not lie. That echo. So with our cameras and these microphones that we use, they often will clip sometimes as well. So that echo is going to be the best comparative analysis you're going to probably see on anybody's video, because you're going to see people using decibel meters, you're going to see people that their microphone is going to be different than mine, but that echo in the woods does not lie. So this thing reduces that shot report immensely. In person, I can tell you that there is a deeper tone to this. The material they're used, obviously this is out of aluminum, but there's a deeper tone to these things. So a lot of times when you put an airgun suppressor on an airgun, a lot of now what you're hearing is the hammer slap. And unfortunately with airguns, as compared to firearms, firearms just have the firing pin, a very small. Airguns, you are slapping a valve. And depending on what kind of pressure you are shooting at, that's a lot of hammer spring tension to hit that valve open and open it up. And there's different airguns. I've noticed like AEAs have a certain sound to them. FX have a certain sound to them. Air Arms has a certain sound to them. Every manufacturer's valve has a little bit of a different sound to them. And so a lot of times when you put a suppressor onto an airgun, you start becoming more aware of the actual sound of your valve, not so much the sound report that's coming out. But I'm always listening kind of to that tone. So real quick, let's talk a little bit about applications of suppressors when it comes to like hunting, okay? When I first got into big bore airgun hunting, I've shot with suppressors, I've shot without them. It's been very interesting to watch how deer react to the shot report of an airgun, both suppressed and unsuppressed. And I'm going to tell you, I think a lot of times the deer, depending on sort of if they're agitated already or not, that really has a lot to do really with most of it. Are they going to be jumping the shot? Guys, if you're shooting an air gun, you're going to be shooting probably in excess of 800 feet per second as it is anyway. That deer's not going to jump the shot if you're taking ethical shots at an ethical shot distance. So the shot report really isn't all that big of a deal with that. It is kind of interesting when I've done some testing out at some ranches with deer. They do look up, they look around. What I have noticed with air guns and big bore air guns with deer specifically, the biggest thing is the fact that they're not supersonic. It's that sonic crack that often you will just scatter the deer. The deer just kind of freak out and they run. So just inherently with big bore air guns shooting at deer, you're shooting suppressed. Where it matters though, I will tell you, is if you are sitting in a blind and you don't shoot suppressed, you're gonna feel it. So if you have a big bore air gun and you're out in the open and you're shooting, the decibels are probably north of 120, decibels. Without hearing protection, it's manageable. With this thing unsuppressed, it's, at a little bit of a ring in my ears shooting unsuppressed. So, but inside of a blind, I can tell you, I actually went big bore air gun hunting a couple years ago at a ranch with the Zeus, and we shot it inside of a blind, unsuppressed, and everybody's ears were ringing. This is available up to 3.57 right now. I'm not sure if Donnie's going to come out with any larger calibers, but shooting big bore air guns inside a blind, you definitely want to shoot suppressed for your hearing protection and those around you. The cool feature about this, that as soon as this came out, I knew exactly where I was going to go with this. Years ago, PJ Clark and I, who actually is now working with Donnie and DonnyFL and Saber Tactical, he and I were just geeking out on taking all the different DonnyFL suppressors, and PJ did this really cool video where he used different suppressors to see what kind of harmonic difference it was going to have on his shot groups. And in his data right away, he saw, putting on heavier suppressors and different lengths of suppressors had a harmonic effect on his shot groups. So around that same time, I was also working on the FX harmonic barrel tuner. And what's cool about this is we can take those two ideas and kind of mash them together. So with the FX harmonic tuner on the end of the barrel, that you're making micro adjustments, where this is making very large scale macro adjustments by adding and removing length and weight to your suppressor. So in the lead into Pyramid Cup, I did a lot of tuning with my brand new DonnyFL Yokozuna. And then I also used the FX barrel tuner on the end of it. So I was actually able to tune an absolute perfect shot group as I headed out to Ohio. And I am proud to say that I shot the second highest score ever in my shooting competition as a 220. So for me, still kind of learning a lot. But that first card, 220, and I owe that a lot to the DonnyFL Yokozuna. And I actually had that in 30 cal for my competition gun. And with that, what I was doing is I started adding and removing the macro adjustments of the weight of the suppressor sections, and I would just see the groups get bigger and smaller, just like any other barrel harmonic tuning. And when I got it to a good kind of zone, Then I started micro tuning with the FX barrel harmonic tuner. So now you have yet another way to manipulate the physical barrel harmonics of your barrel, both length and weight. And I think that's a really important thing that I don't know a lot of people are talking about when they're talking about harmonic tuning. And there's actually something to be said about the length beyond the muzzle of your air gun and the length of your tuner. So if you think about this as a tuner, think of it as almost like a wind chime, right? Wind chimes have different lengths, and as they get longer and shorter, when you hit them and they make the wind chime sound longer and shorter, there's a harmonic difference between that. So it's not just the weight, it's also the length of the suppressor that has a harmonic dynamic manipulation to the harmonics of your rifle. So by adding and removing those sections, you are adjusting the length and the weight. And it's actually one of the reasons why the FX barrel harmonic tuner goes beyond the muzzle of the air gun. Is there is some research out there that says the harmonic tuning of the harmonic tuning node should be happening beyond the muzzle of the rifle. And so in the 22 long rifle world, there's some Olympic shooters. They're using tuners that actually look like bloop tubes that go beyond the muzzle of the air gun, and then the length of that tube actually has a harmonic effect on the overall platform. But I tell you what, tuning with this thing has been an absolute dream come true, and the sound suppression for this is just second to none. Huge kudos to the entire team over at DonnyFL. So definitely check out the Yokozuna. This right here is the most advanced airgun suppressor on the market today. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Take care.